We're going to fly to San Diego, buy cars for less than $2,500 each.
We had a hot start problem. All right, so we just replaced it.
Now, was this particular model equipped with a check engine light?
It was. It's on. Your key is broken and it gets stuck.
Unless I hit it with a tire iron.
It was an absolutely terrifying drive. We honestly did not know if we were going to make it.
Okay, here we go. Day 9, we started in San Francisco, and we planned to make it to Phillipsville, California, which is at the bottom of the Avenue of Giants by nightfall.
Ready?
Okay, the tree's clear, I'm gonna go.
Shit!
But getting out of San Francisco was going to be an adventure. Admittedly, I still wasn't too used to driving a standard. George's cousin had this great idea that we would follow some bike route called the Wiggle, and that seemed kind of complicated. So instead, we decided to take the Embarcadero. I should have known that we were going to be in trouble. We hadn't even gotten to the Embarcadero when we got stuck in traffic, and it just never let up. It took almost 2 hours to get to the Embarcadero and then travel around to the marina. And then we make this turn that we know is going to lead us up to the Golden Gate Bridge, and it's the biggest hill we've seen since we started. All of this was to skip hills, and it didn't even work. And back on the 101, we weaved our way through the end of San Francisco and then up over the Golden Gate Bridge. I've walked it before, I've seen it from the ground, but driving over such an iconic bridge was a really cool experience.
It might just have been the most quintessentially West Coast landmark of our trip. Not so surprising given that it might just be the most iconic West Coast landmark of all. The Golden Gate Bridge had the longest main span of any suspension bridge in the world from its opening in 1937 until supplanted by the Verrazano Narrows Bridge in New York in 1964. The color is officially International Orange and was selected largely for safety purposes, in part to secure the cooperation of the United States Navy, which initially opposed its construction. It's technically a toll bridge, but only southbound traffic is charged, so our trip across the bay was free, landing us in Marin County and resuming our journey on Route 1. We paid our dues in traffic in San Francisco, but with Sausalito barely in our rearview mirrors, this road made up for it.
Getting back out of the city on such a windy, crazy road was actually a whole lot of fun, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a sign of the whole day to come. The Pacific Coastal Highway hugs the beach, it goes through a ton of little towns, and after the first several beaches, traffic thinned out. The rest of the day we spent speeding along this narrow, twisted ribbon of beautiful nature. Sometimes less than a quarter-mile divided forests from sandy beaches, and you could smell sea air and cattle herds and eucalyptus trees all at the same time. It was so beautiful and so much fun to drive through, and it really was the greatest part of this whole trip for me. Compared to the Big Sur area, the road was about the same. It was super windy, lots of hills, so beautiful, beachside the whole time, but there was no one there. We could go faster than we probably should have. We could stop wherever we wanted to. We didn't have to worry about any more of those god-awful Ford Mustang convertible terrible people. It was the best day of the drive.
Our lunch spot was Bodega Bay at the famous Tides Wharf and Restaurant, which was featured in Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds as the set of restaurant and boat dock scenes, as well as the gas station fire. The food was fantastic, and the fun views of the wildlife, jet skiers, and windsurfers in the bay Made the time go by fast.
I'm not really sure if I'd want to be famous for that movie in particular, but it was a pretty neat place, and they made a really great lunch.
Holy shit, that was amazing, but oh god. I came so close to dying so many times.
So today has been, I would say, more perfect than the last. This area that we're in is as good as Big Sur, if not better. We've seemed to have somehow left all the convertible Mustangs behind. Even though I'm following a pop-up camper, it's doing fine. The road has been good enough that I've managed to make myself car sick from all the twisty, windy bits. Taylor's check engine light turned off for some reason, but we're all pretty happy about that.
Everyone was finally running smoothly, the Bumblebee was cooperating, and the views wouldn't quit. In a day of iconic bridges, we crossed the last remaining wooden bridge of Highway 1. It's not much to look at in the video, but from the sides its span over the Albion River was yet another snapshot of a thing stuck in time. Around a few more corners, we found a nice surprise and one of the best photo spots on our route, a small beach with a prime view of the Frederick W. Panhurst Bridge. The design is very similar to the Bixby Bridge in Big Sur, a reinforced concrete open spandrel arch bridge. But unlike Bixby Creek, Russian Gulch is easily accessible by car for an up-close view.
We drove down to the very edge of the water. We wandered for a few minutes, took a bunch of family photos of all the cars, and then one stupid fisheye selfie, which by this point has become quite the tradition.
I just wanted to take a picture.
Silly selfies and spandrels aside, this kind of serendipity, the accidental discovery of our favorite little private spot. This is why we drive. This is the soul of the road trip.
And then we got back on the road. Right as the sun went down below the water, Highway 1 turned inland and went straight from being a beach road to being a forest road. We were definitely in the very beginnings of the Avenue of the Giants. That's the California Redwoods. It was a crazy windy road through trees you couldn't see the tops of. I've never seen a road like that before. Oh, my mother would have yelled if she'd known how fast we were driving through all of that. At one point, we actually lost Evan. That probably is the only part of the drive where I really kind of felt like I may be in a car that didn't really want to do that. But my truck was not going to be outshined by the Alpha and the Bumblebee. And it did it. And it was epic.
As night set in and the trees thickened, we began to realize that, in the words of our inspiration for this trip, Highway 1 was giving us a startling parting gift. This final stretch of road was the best part of the drive so far, and, I'm sad to say, the best drive of the whole trip. The one gave us a send-off complete with hairpin bends, zero traffic, and as far as we could tell by the light of our crap headlights, an amazing forest view. Not to sound cliche, but here I go. It was a perfect end to a perfect day.
The next morning we woke up and admired our surroundings. This was the first of Evan's rather unusual booking choices. It is a little bit possible that the Madrona Motor Court is less charming in daylight, but it was pretty cool. We made a cup of coffee, sat on the porch, and slowly packed up. while we were talking, the property owners came out and asked some more questions and were very excited about all the things that we were doing. It felt really silly explaining the story, but it was always really fun to watch everybody's eyes get really big and say, wow, that's an amazing story and I wish I'd ever done something like that. So that begins day 10, the Avenue of the Giants. We first made a stop to do what I think was probably the first of surprisingly few truly stupid tourist things to do. There is a tree along the Avenue of the Giants that you can drive through. You know, it's got a sign on the highway and you turn in and there's this big parking area and a little admissions gate that you can drive through, and there's a charge per car.
Thank you.
You drive in, and then it's a pretty short little driveway, circular drive.
Fine, there are more people in here than I thought. Yeah, I guess when they say tourist trap, they mean it.
That goes down a hill through a truly impressively massive tree. And then back up to the parking area. We had been told that we could drive through as many times as we wanted, so we did once. And then the second time we got out and we took pictures each time. And oh God, disaster struck. I went through the second time and I was going extra slow. And then some yahoo stood in the middle of the driveway right in front of me as it turns sharply upward to get back to the parking lot. And he has stepped to the side and his wife is standing directly behind him. I tried once, and it was bad, and I slid backwards. And I tried it one more time, and then I finally had to actually ask Evan for help.
After that, a few short miles of driving along the Avenue of the Giants brought us to our next touristy destination of the day.
Seeing the redwoods from the road, weaving around them like immovable obstacles, and even driving through them just couldn't prepare us for the scale of the things with this kind of up-close and sometimes sideways perspective. Just off the Avenue of the Giants, Founders Grove is home to the late Dyerville giant, one of the tallest trees in the world until it fell in 1991, which incidentally is the model year of the Bumblebee. Take from that what you will. Possibly 2,000 years old, the entire 362-foot length of the tree is walkable. Coastal redwoods can grow from sprouts off a stump or fallen branches, so when a large tree dies, sprouts will grow in a ring around its stump, creating a strikingly unusual tree formation called a fairy circle.
Knowing we had a long day ahead of us, we didn't really stay long. And soon we were headed through the Avenue of the Giants once again. The drive was really very cool. These huge redwoods were just inches from the edge of this awesome little road. We were almost constantly under a thick canopy of these ancient trees. It was also an interesting contrast to the endless beaches we'd been driving through at that point. Not like I'm complaining about the endless beaches, but you know. Much like Big Sur, I can't really show you any footage that would do justice to this drive, but I am gonna try. Too soon, we were back on the 101 proper, where 100 or so miles later we hit the last of our super touristy destinations, though we did have a quick stop off at a beach along the way, you know, for old time's sake. The trees of mystery made even the drive-through trees look off the beaten path. This was a tourist trap with a capital T, complete with a trail ending in the gift shop. That said, it was really totally worth being trapped by. The views, the trees, the gondola ride, they were really all super cool. The people were friendly. It was totally worth doing, and hell, I'd even consider going back. Back on the road, we were headed to our next overnight halt in Coos Bay when we saw something astonishing by the side of the road. We were so startled we had to pull over to make sure it was real. Yep, you guessed it. It was the Oregon border. I cannot believe that we had made it the entire height of California.
In all honesty, we had each expected to be down 1 or maybe even 2 vehicles by this point, so making it all the way from the south of California to the north border with all 3 vehicles intact was very exciting.
It's just absurd that our 3 cars that shouldn't have been able to make it from San Diego to LA made it through 1,200 miles of beautiful California coastline.
At first, we all thought we were crazy to try this. Some point along the way, though, we started to realize we'd be crazy not to want to do it again.
We had accomplished so much more than we dared even hope, and we still had so much ahead of us. We had no idea what was in store for us, and really that was part of the adventure.